First of all, I welcome the motion. I think a few things is to be said. Minister Ryan and Minister Noonan has gone around Europe where a lot of countries are kicking back at it for the simple reasons, the consequences that's involved in this. It is bad legislation, should not be let in here. And when you talk about voluntary, let's give you the example of what voluntary is, or what now our Department of Agriculture is going to do in August. If you have a peachy-type land that there's green grass growing on it, for the BIS payment next year, you have to say, I won't plough it, I won't shore it, or I won't make any new drain in it. Is that voluntary? Oh, technically it is, but realistically it's putting a gun to a farmer's head. This is what this is about. And small family farms, especially in the west, northwest, the Midlands and the southwest, is going to be adversely affected by this. Under Article 9.4, they will talk about the voluntary part of it. But look at the other parts of this piece of legislation. Article 4.1 and 4.2 catches you on every bit of peachy-type ground that you talk about. And actually, it puts every bit of peachy-type ground as degraded down without ever having looked at it, which is unacceptable. And Minister, I think that what Minister Ryan has done, going around looking for other ministers to come on board, is we should be ashamed. I think you should have got your answer in the election, in the European elections over the last number of days, of what the rural people think of it, of what's gone on. 10% in every farm in this country today, last year, has been put aside for space for nature. In every farm in this country. Because you had to do it under the ECO or the BIS, the new BIS scheme for the greening. It was called greening, but it's called ECO. And so that's 1 million acres of Irish farmland has been put aside under the Department of Agriculture scheme. And still that isn't enough. And what you will end up doing, and it's not today and it's not up to 2030, it's after 2030 that this will kick in. Everybody, and in fairness, is genuine, will say, oh, it won't affect this, that and the other. The state will cover up to 2030. After 2030, when the EU and when we go into the straitjacket of the European Court of Justice, every one of us has seen it under the Habitats Directive. We will end up that the European Court of Justice will rule, and then the state will have to come heavy. We have seen this through years and years gone by with the likes of the Habitats Directive. It's not a minister that intends to do this. But what will happen is the environmentalists will watch. And by the way, there's parts of this that they can object if they think Johnny or Mary down the road is doing harm. And I would ask you, Minister, to put to bed this piece of work that you're doing in Europe. We do not want it in Ireland. There is a lot of countries opposed to it. We're not radicals. We're all in favour of doing things better. Bear in mind that 10% is being put aside. And if the state wants to do something in their own lands themselves, let them off and let them do it. No one has a problem with that. But by God, the day that you will try and force people, and this is the way they go about it, it's not forcing you, catching you by the neck and saying you have to do it. It's the way they'll say, well, now you can't get the single farm payment and you have to do this. I'm giving you the example, what's coming in August, that Ireland tried to kick back at and won't be allowed. They're now a farmer in a peachy type soil, not their fault where they're born. No matter whether you're in the Golden Vale or whether you're from all peat-side lands, that now you cannot shore it, you cannot plough it, and you cannot make any drain in it. You have to sign up to that. And what is the farmer? Because they're relying on the single farm payment, they'll have to adhere to it. So in other words, it's voluntary, but it's compulsory.